ladies and gentlemen, Harold Hoot Dotson. How you doing, buddy?
Merry Christmas to all you hillbillies.
Merry Christmas,
you
buddy.
You city boys too out there.
Yep. Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. This is Christmas Eve.
Merry
This
Christmas.
is when this is going to be airing.
I better say Merry Christmas to my little grandkids.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah, Mackenzie, Madison. I get them mixed up. McKinley, Madison, and Mackenzie. It gets me mixed up.
That McKinley and Mackenzie, man, that's brutal right there. That would get me too.
Madison and Mackenzie was the first two, and then the last little one. You see the little one I had on there dancing with me?
Yeah, I did. Which one? McKinley?
That's McKinley.
That's a pretty name.
Mean as a snake.
Well, she spends too much time around you, probably.
I believe that's what it is. Me and her has a good time every now and then.
Yeah, man.
She comes up and stays with me, and we cut up.
It sure seems like it. What song was she dancing to the other night that you were playing?
It was something I just made up on the spot. My girl says, you make up songs all the time. She wanted to do something with her for the Elf on the Shelf. She said, you can do something. So I just done that Elf on the Shelf. God, I need some help.
Man, them Elf on a Shelf things, a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
But they're fun. They're fun.
Had fun with it.
You brought me some stuff. I wanted to save it for air to dive into it. But right here is an RC Cola can. I wish we would have found the date on this before we hopped on air, but I couldn't find it.
It must be in the 50s or 60s on it somewhere.
Has to be.
Would it be 60s?
But you found this in the woods, and man, this is in great condition.
Squirrel hunting, laying up on top of a ridge behind where my dad lived. I found that squirrel hunting a long time ago. I've had it a long time. I said, well, I'll give that to Eli.
Right.
Into sports a little more than I'm not in sports.
It's an honor, man.
Always run at her dogs and wasn't no good at a football. I tried a football one time at school and they just run over me. I was too little.
Buddy, I'm the same way. One of my friends down in Georgia's name is Chandler Murphy. I tried out football for a little while, and he'd been playing football all his life. Buddy, it was like I ran into a brick wall. That dude knocked the breath out of me for hours. And after that, I'm like, I'll watch it. I'm not going to play it. I'll watch it.
First game I went and played at Hurley School. I joined football. Didn't know nothing. I run out there. First tackle I make, I throw my hand out and hook it in the man's face mask. Come here, breaking the little boy's neck. Grabbed him by the face mask.
Yeah.
I think it made them all mad because the next play, two of them pinned me, one on each rib. Man, they put me out.
It gets brutal, man.
I
but
just ain't a football player.
I can watch it. I ain't going to play it. There's people that like concussions out there, and all good for them. They can have as many as they want to. I'll watch them get a concussion. It's kind of like the old show Jackass. Do you remember that?
Them old boys up. I don't remember that. Them old boys up Pawpaw, they play football and never had no pads, and they try to beat each other up just like you would with pads. Man, you ought to see how they went at it.
It was a lot tougher back in the day, too. See, WPRG-TV, the TV station that we have downstairs, they've been doing these throwback games. And they'll show a football game from, like, the late 80s or early 90s or something like that. And I don't know what people were eating back then, but it was just brutes. I mean, and every team was just full brutes. Wasn't no skinny running guy or anything like that. It was just brick walls. And buddy, they would go at it. I mean, they'd clothesline each other. It was fun to watch.
Up in the head of Pawpaw, they had teams like that, and they get together. I mean, they hit head on, no helmets.
Yeah, man.
You could hear them popping, bruising themselves up big time. I had a cousin named Brutus, was a big old brute.
Yeah.
I believe I told you about him before. He was hairy like a big gorilla. He was a big old tough dude. Could throw a football. You just wouldn't believe it. And one day he'd got him we'd always have to just make an old football out of an old mining inner tube, out of an old mining buggy or something, wrap it up in tape that they used at the mines because we couldn't even get a football.
Yeah.
But Brutus gets this big pigskin. He's standing out there. My dad's on his bridge, pitching that up there. You know how you spin it and sit there and catch it and spin it. And I walked out there, and he's sitting there with that old big football. And here comes my other cousin that lived down the road, walking up the road. He was a good catcher. He could go out and receive. I mean, he could go at it. He'd dive in there and catch that ball. And Brutus, he told him we was in that hardtop in front of my dad's big straightaway. He told Brutus, he said, hey, Bull. He called him Bull. Let me go out for one, Bull. Let me go out for one, Bull. Oh, you ever had the cool like talk? Let me go out for one, Bull. Brutus said, I'll tell you, you let this pigskin hit that hard top and scratch the leather off of it. You said, you know I'll catch it, Bull. You know I'll catch it, Bull. Hey, he throwed that ball in there. He said, "Well, go out for it." Old Brutus, he could throw one so far. He throwed it to the end of that straightaway, and he'd give him time to get about halfway down through if we'd put that ball in there. And I mean, when he put her in there, he put her in there. And he could hit right on target. Hubert was real good at that diving and catching in the air, stretched out as far as he could stretch out. And believe me, down at the end of that straightaway in that hard top, Hubert dived in the air and had them hands stuck straight out, and that ball hit him right in the hands. You believe that he landed in that hard top and slid on his belly 20 foot. It tore the shirt right off his belly. They were scratches and blood. And you believe he come walking up that road and come up there to me and Brutus? And he looked at us. He said, "I told you I'd catch it." Smiling, blood running. But he was just happy that he caught that ball. Him tore off his wild thing.
Good for him, man. Yeah, football, it just, if you watch it from clips back in the day, they went for it, buddy. They were bloodthirsty back then. It was a real man's sport back then.
Brutus was good at football with a bow and arrow when he was a kid in Pawpaw. He had this first cousin lived over across the road from him. Comes riding a bicycle down the road, and Brutus makes his bow out of we always used TV wire about everything we made. We didn't have a TV wire. Take a piece of TV wire and bend a stick and make a bow. And he takes an old stickweed stick, puts in that bow. Here comes old Richard Allen down that road just a-flying on a bicycle. Brutus lets loose of that stickweed and hit him on that soft spot. Knocked him off the bicycle. Come here, killed him.
I'm surprised it didn't.
He was one dangerous cat, Brutus was.
Man, like... Well, just back in the day, any activity for kids was dangerous. Like right before we hopped on air, before we get into this right here, you were telling me about how you'd play with dynamite as a kid.
My dad had a handload coal mines. They used dynamite all back in the 60s. They was just laying around anywhere.
What'd you do
70s.
for fun with dynamite?
Well, little Jerry Clare business. We'd put her in a water hole and get a lot of fish. Let a little piece of that. We'd cut the piece off short so it wouldn't really be so powerful, but it would still bust a lot of minnows would float up on their bellies, you know.
How does it see? Like I've heard of people doing that, but I've never done it myself or been around it. How does it kill that many fish? You know, like what kills them? Do you know?
Explode, I guess.
The force of it, I guess. I don't know.
I would think.
But
see, that dynamite there's got the fuse. The dynamite that was out before they come out with the cap. They come out with the little electric ones. Little long wires on it, little caps instead of that fuse there. Mm-hmm. And we used to pack that little electric cap, and all you had to have was that electric cap. You didn't have to have a piece of dynamite to kill the minnows. But I used to go to bed with my paints on with D batteries. You could take a D battery and set that wire on each side of that D battery and let it off. And when you put your cap down the water, you'd be up there. That wire would be like 20 foot long. You could let that off with that battery, but we would put that battery sometimes in our pocket and fill our pockets full of caps and wires. If them would have got together and us in the bed, it would have blown our legs off.
Man, I'm sure it happened to somebody.
We'd sneak and play and get that stuff, you know, but everybody had a little dynamite back then. When they was digging a grave, you could find a piece of dynamite, shoot the rock in a grave, just anywhere. But now it's federal.
Yeah.
If you got dynamite now, it's a big thing to have.
Yeah, they ruined all the fun now. Yeah, my dad, they played with black powder and all that whenever they were kids, and he told me a story one time about how they almost blew the back porch off. And we were talking before we hopped on air, too, about, you know, the black powder houses and stuff like that. Back in the day, people had a little shed that they kept black powder or dynamite, all of this dangerous, crazy stuff just was in the backyard.
You could just go in. You could just go in somebody's outhouse home, pop on. They'd be a stick of dynamite sticking overhead somewhere or something. You know, you could just find it anywhere.
That's just crazy.
But that black powder, I got into a deal with that. Me and a buddy of mine was playing music when we was about 15. We started playing this rock and roll music in schools, and they was going to have us to come to the school and do a show for the school. You know, they bring all the kids in. We'd play a show.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Mike Jackson, he's my cousin. He's one of them Jackson gospel singers on Pawpaw.
It's kind of funny that he's a singer and his name is Mike Jackson.
Yeah, he played drums. I played guitar and sung. He played drums back when we was in school and rock and roll. And old Mike, we got the idea we'd take some black powder and make us some smoke bombs to put on stage in the school. And Mike, we'd take a little old piece of pipe and put it on a piece of wood, made a stand, and fill that full of black powder, and was going to light it and see how much smoke it'd put off. So Mike bends over that pipe out in the middle of the road and lights that black powder down that pipe, and that burnt every hair on him turned gray right there on the spot. And then we see it put out a lot of smoke. Yeah. And then we had this other little old boy. He thought he was some kind of big electrician, so he ends up the idea to run 110 wires and put little thin fine wires across from one side to the other so it would arc and set that black powder off. We poured the black powder down on top of that. And he had that little wire inside that powder, so when we would plug that in, we was going to have him plug it in. He'd run our lights. Mm-hmm. He was our light man and all that. We thought we was big time. So his name was Burton. Little Burton, he rigs that up. And we got black powder sitting in about 4 or 5 piles in the schoolhouse on the stage in the auditorium. And we was going to let him, he's sitting over there behind the curtains, going to plug it in the wall when we started playing music and blow up a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
But we was lucky. The principal come up. He said, I need to make a speech before y'all start, Harold. And I got over to the side and let him get at the mic, and he looks down and he sees all that stuff on the stage. He said, what have you got here, Harold? I said, we're going to let a little smoke off when we start here. I said, that's black powder. He said, oh, you can't let that off. He said, that smoke will kill everybody in this building. And it was good to...
Yeah, smart man.
If he hadn't have done that, we would have killed the kids in the school with that black powder smoke.
Hey, you would have been remembered for quite a while, though. How old were you when you done that?
He was about 15, I guess.
Wow.
Little Burton, he's gone now, but he only had he had 4 fingers missing because when he was a little kid, when he was 10-year-old, he was playing with his brother. And they was just playing with an axe. Their dad had been chopping wood and left the axe out there at the wood pile. And Burton would lay his hand on a block, the chop block, and dared his brother to chop his fingers off, chop his hand off. And his brother was little too, about 12, I guess. He hauls off that axe and cuts all his fingers off at the chop block.
Oh, man.
They're just playing, and he ended up being... But he thought he'd still be an electrician what few fingers he had.
Hey, if he could still be an electrician, missing half a hand, he's a great electrician.
He was a wild thing. He said, I'm going to be your light boy, our light dude, you got to have lights. And he went and traded for this light stand that this old boy on Pawpaw made. It was homemade light stand, made out of big round tin coffee cans, had these big round lights in them, the colored lights in them.
Yeah.
Wires all wired to it and run down an old pole. He had that to wire up, and he'd light us up. God. He was a wildcat.
Whenever you grow up in the country, it's a totally different thing than growing up in the city. I moved up here whenever I was about 13, and I spent a lot of my childhood in Georgia, like in a kind of an inner city. And man, whenever I moved up here, it was totally different just to see what people done for fun, And the thing is, though, it's a little bit crazy, like the stories that you're talking about, but we have fun. That's
had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Whenever there's a lot of stuff that I can't even talk about because it's felony related. But when you're a country boy, you have fun growing up. You sure do.
Had a wild time.
Yeah, man. I want my kid to grow up in a place like this. I don't want him doing stuff as crazy as I did. That's what everybody hopes for, I guess. But I want my kid to grow up in the country because you have more freedom. You have more. I guess that's why your childhood is so much better. You don't have to stay in the backyard or anything like that. You can go roam the hills or go 4-wheel riding or whatever. Get into some meanness.
And that old mean Jackson boy. Just because they all go to church don't mean they ain't got a little mean streak. That's my uncle's boys. And Mike, they all think they're elves or carpenters. They are. They're the best carpenters you ever seen. All of them Jacksons, carpenter and pick guitars, play instruments. But Mike gets the idea that we'd build a boat. The county got ready to put a swimming pool over there right below where we live in. And Mike gets this idea that we should make us a boat because they didn't finish it. They didn't concrete the pool or nothing. They just left a big hole there and hit about 10 foot or 12 foot of water on one end, probably from 4 or 5 foot down to about 12 foot. Mike gets the idea that we should get us a boat made and get out in that. We make a boat out of plyboard. And I get out in the middle of that and that sinks. I bet I went down. They say you go down 3 times. I bet I went down and up 10 times looking at the mountains. I thought in the sky, this is my last views. All I could see is just those tops of those mountains in that sky, thinking I ain't going to make it. Thought that was my last views. And Mike got a hold of me and pulled me out of that water. When he got me out of that water, He fools around, falls in, and I pulled him out. It was a wild thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. See, like, whenever I moved up here, I heard about the place over there in Elkhorn, that the train trestle that people jump off of. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Pull point, I think that's what they call it. Man, the fact that people will do that stuff for fun, that blows my mind.
I see them jump off cliffs over there, look like 1,000-foot jump.
Yeah, and if you grow up a country kid,
hey,
that's fun.
There was a guy over at home jumped off that trestle you were talking about with an inner tube under his arms. You know what I'm saying? When he jumped,
man,
when
he
went
break his
down and
arms.
that inner tube caught the water, they said he'd almost tore his arms off. Slingshotted him.
Dude, I've watched videos of people jumping off of that place, and it's scary to watch. It really is. I mean, you're thinking that they're going to die. It's it's like it's over 100 foot. Has to be.
That old mountain, I see them jump off over there at Flankin, or I think it's where it was at. Man, it looked like 1,000 foot. I had a guy come in from Michigan, one of my cousins. He says, I'm going to go over there. You know, a Michigan dude took, I'm going to jump off that cliff. I was thinking, you ain't going to jump off that cliff.
Yeah.
A bunch of my boys over at home would jump off it. I wouldn't jump off it. He said, you go over there with me. I'm going to jump off that cliff. And he took a camera over there wanting to film himself jumping off that cliff. But he'd get right to the edge and stop. And he'd back up and he'd get right to the edge and he'd stop. We sat there for 2 hours. He never did jump off that cliff.
Buddy, I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit.
He was pretty smart, I thought.
Have you heard of see, this is another thing that I didn't hear of before I moved to this area. Is like right around Halloween time, as I guess a trick or something, people will cut down trees in the middle of the road.
Oh, I done it all the time.
That was a normal thing.
That was her favorite thing.
What was so fun about that? I don't get
just
that.
Getting to block the road, and you know it was really dangerous. Her moms and dad would tell us, what
That's
if somebody
crazy.
gets sick and the ambulance is trying to get over here to get somebody,
Yeah.
and you've got this road blocked them? They wouldn't be one tree. We put 20 trees in the road that night. And there's this little guy down in Pawpaw. He's running the body shop right now. He's really good on cars. And
Yeah.
we had this dummy tied to this tree limb. The tree limb hung out over the highway.
Oh my God.
And every Thursday night, I think it was, that there's this church down the road, run a school bus up through there to pick up kids, take them down there for church.
No.
And we'd swing that dummy out, and those kids be running their arms out the windows of that bus trying to grab that dummy. We'd have a good time every night doing it. We'd swing that dummy out. Well, to make that dummy go out across the road and come back, we put a rock in the paint so it would be heavy and it'd swing and come back good, so we could always get to grab a hold of it.
Yeah.
And every night when we got done, we'd tie the dummy off to a bush back here so it wouldn't be hanging out on the road. And this little neighbor of mine, he goes and gets that dummy in the middle of the day and unties it, him just probably 8 or 10 year old, and lets that loose. And a forestry warden truck was coming along when he let that loose, and that big rock took the whole sign off the side of that forestry door.
Oh, man.
And sunk that door in. And that forestry warden seen me standing over in the yard because I lived on one side of the road and they lived on the other. He said, well, I know it wasn't you. He lived up below us, the forestry warden knows.
Nice.
He said, well, I know it wasn't you. He said, wonder which one it was. And he went up there to the neighbors, and he knew that it had to be one of them. And he told the little boy's dad, he said, that little old boy of yours has let that dummy loose and tore this truck up, tore the whole sign off the door. And he was sitting back on the mountain. You could see him sitting back there, humped up. And him hollering at him. But he become a body man out of that, though. He's real good at vehicles. He made a good body mechanic.
Well, yeah, I'm glad the story has a good ending. At least he's not in like federal prison at
He's
this
fixed
point.
a many vehicles. It's that.
Buddy, whenever you grow up in the country, you grow up doing some mean stuff every once in a while.
Blocking that road, law.
I can't believe that was. Well, see, like me and my buddies, we would hide up in the hills on like by roads and stuff, and throw stuff at cars as they came by.
Now I helped cut a lot of trees across the road, but those guys up there at home, they didn't just cut trees. They turned the tin sheds over. They had those buildings built for the school kids to get in to be out of the rain. They turned them over in the road. They burned cars in the road. The Pawpaw.
Yeah,
There wasn't nothing to hear of cars being burnt down the road on that one.
I was going to bring that up too. Yeah, I've heard of cars being burned in the road too, and like to hear people talk about it, that like you, that people that grew up around this area their entire life, to hear y'all talk about how it was such a normal thing is mind blowing in today's world.
Yeah.
Like people won't believe what you're talking about, but I can promise you, like for the people that watch this that are not from around this area, This is
what
real.
we done.
That's what happened.
I'll tell you another good one. Right before daylight one morning, we had it planned. We'd cut this big oak. I mean, it was big as a coal truck wheel. And we was going to block the road so the school bus couldn't get through, so we wouldn't have to go to school. So we go down there early in the morning and cut this big oak tree, going to block that school bus.
Yeah.
And that oak tree falls off of that bank, and there's a cliff there, and the stump it hangs up here, and the tree lands in another tree across the road and just falls across there, and the bus still got under it. It didn't work out.
Hey, back in the day, buddy, you still went to school. It wasn't no snow day or anything like that. It was no tree in the road. You went to school.
I had an old mean cousin that lived there where we cut that tree. You know, people get mad you're cutting their nice timber. Yeah. I had this cousin that owned that land there. And we'd been cutting them big oak trees of his. He gets mad, man. He's wanting to kill somebody. We didn't know no better. We just didn't know no better.
Yeah.
We was down there one night and cutting them trees, and we heard him a-coming, cussing. I laid down in the ditch, dark as a dungeon. Everybody was humped up, hid behind the trees, and I was laying there in the ditch. He walks down that road a-screaming and a-cussing. He gets right where I'm at, and he don't know I'm in that ditch, and he ratchets a shell in that pump shotgun. I hear it click and ratchet, and he said, I'll kill every one of these when I catch you. It's Millie, just right under his feet.
Man. And that's the thing, buddy. I've been in some predicaments like that. There's some that I can't even mention. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on some of the things I've done. But yeah, buddy, whenever you tick off the right person, it's scary, buddy, because you're most time you're back in the woods.
The maddest person I ever seen on Halloween was a woman. Me and these guys got together and we made up a plan. I was good at making dummies. I can make a dummy look like a real person.
Yeah.
We made us up a plan that we'd act like we was in a fight when a car was coming and knock that dummy down in front of the car and let the car run over it, like he'd run over somebody, you know. I don't know who the woman was, but man, you talk about making her mad. Here she comes down that road, and we hauling off a beating each other and slapping around and pitch that dummy right down under her wheels, and she went boom, boom, over top of that. She jumps out and runs up that road hollering, did I kill him? Is he dead? Is he dead? And she was screaming. And you talk about giving us a talking for doing that. She gave us a talking. Could scare her and take a heart attack over something like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, man. I'm kind of glad people don't do stuff like that anymore. But back in the day, that was totally normal.
We done it every fall. I lit a big tar one night and put it in the road. Lit a tar. My cousin, that's Mike Jackson's brother, Bruce Jackson.
Yeah.
He goes to work and comes back in on night shift, second shift. And I'm out there at about the time he's going to be coming through. And I don't even know if he knows it to today. But I lit this tar in the road. And he's coming down the road and stops. And I noticed it was his truck. I was down the creek looking up while that tar was up there on fire. One side of the tar's on fire and the other side hadn't got burning real good. And Bruce gets out his truck and reaches and gets that old tar and pitches it in the creek right on top of me.
Man.
And to this day, I don't know if he knows I done it, but he gets out to throw the tar out of the way and throwed it right down in there.
Well, did y'all have any crazy senior pranks around this area? I heard of one where a car got put up on top of a school or something like that. I don't know if that was true.
I've seen them turn horses loose in their school up to high school.
That is wild.
I was there one day in a classroom, and once this horse comes running down that hallway, doing 50 miles an hour, and that hallway was slick. Old horse doing splits and everything as he was running. So my boys just snuck open the door and sent him through there.
Good for them. Good for them. You don't see any good senior pranks nowadays. There was that one that happened a few years ago. Somebody had a side-by-side around here that brought it to the school. That was kind of funny. Yeah. Kids do stupid stuff, you know? And we've all done stupid stuff.
I know how to handle dynamite good. You know, I handled it. My dad, we shoot house coal. When I was 10 or 12 years old, I know how to handle dynamite pretty fair because I helped get house coal with it. And we was getting some house coal, and there was this coal seam outside of the mountain that they'd cleaned off. The coal company had come up there and cleaned it off. They was getting ready to open the mines up there, but they left this pad of coal sitting there 4-foot seam or 3-foot tall. A big old pad of it, looked like it was 50 foot long and just cleared off about 10 foot back on it. Laying there, big pad of coal. And we was taking one of those old hand drill things and drilling holes and sticking that dynamite in there and shooting it. And then Daddy had those electric caps then. And he run a wire around the mountain 100 foot or two, and it was around a corner. Mm-hmm. And to hook it to the battery on the truck, because the battery we was going to use to blow it up with. We had the truck hood up to hook that wire on there when we got it drilled and shoot it. And my uncle was there with us. And Daddy told me, he said, now you go around there, and when I holler, he said, you plug in wires on that battery. And when I got around the corner and got out there, they was going to go down there the hill and hide behind this great old big rock laying there. I believe what they was going to get behind so nothing wouldn't hit them when it exploded. He said, but you make sure that you don't hook them wires on there till I tell you to. But when I go around that curve, he hollers, make sure you don't do nothing. Mm-hmm. And when he hollers, I just thought he hollered, let it off. So I plugged the wires on. He said my uncle looked like he went 20 foot straight up. I come out there, and he was covered in coal soot, too.
Man.
Could have killed him.
Hey, but...
Just on account of, didn't, you know, when Dad hollered, he shouldn't have hollered, but when he hollered, he was hollering to say, make sure you don't plug in.
Buddy, I look back on plenty of experiences and think, how are me and my friends still alive?
You believe I was working in a coal mines in the 80s over in Race Fork, and I watched a guy wire up 100 sticks of dynamite at one time and let them off.
Wow.
All at one time. That's 2 cases. There's 50 sticks to a case.
Why did he do that?
They was going to shoot this place out in the mines for a belt head to go in and stuff. And it had to be like tall as this room, and we was in low, about this high. It wasn't real low, but it was kind of low, and they was going to shoot that top out. So we take 50 roof bolts out and put a stick of dynamite to each hole. We first put 50 sticks in, and we didn't have dummies. You got to have dummies sticks. It's just a clay stick that you tape up in there. Once you put your dynamite stick in the fire, you put your dummies up in there and tape it up in there so it would keep the pressure up and it'll bust a rock. If you don't, it'll just blow far out the hose. So the guy brought us on the mines, he brought us 50 sticks and didn't have no dummies. And when we let it off, it just blowed a lot of fire out and just cracked up the top all over. It's just real dangerous looking. And I never will forget me and this guy. We go back, and when we see it done that, the owner of the mines went back and got us 100 sticks, and he got us some dummies. We had 7 timbers is all we had laying in that mines. We stuck them under that, and it was like a 200-foot stretch, 100 to 200-foot stretch. We stuck 7 timbers under that in the old busted top and went back in there and taped that with 2 sticks to a hoe. That's 100 sticks. Wires hanging at this guy. Had to be good at wiring. There was wires hanging down everywhere. I mean, and I told him, I said, you sure all this will go off at one time? He said, yeah. He said, it'll all go off at one time. We got ready to let that off, and he told me, he said, you go over and tell that painter man. The painter man was a pretty good ways away from us, but he said, make sure, tell him don't come out of that place he's in, stay up in there because we're going to let this off. I go over to that painter man, I told him, I said, stay back in this hole. He's getting ready to let this off. I'm sitting there with him, and I stuck my head around the corner and hollered, let it off. When I did, he let it off right at the same time I said that. I don't know what that done, but it shook that whole mountain over there. Seemed like it just kept shaking. And that stung my tongue and everything inside. It was like a burn to my tongue right as quick as it done it. I don't know what it done. It stung me some way. But you believe if that done more damage, it did good to that mine. It tore Bradishes out, holes in Bradishes all the way almost to the outside, and we was like 60, 70 breaks on the ground.
That's crazy, man.
It shook that mountain just boom, 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 like that there.
I couldn't imagine doing that.
That wasn't
for a
legal
job.
back then. Even when we done that wasn't legal. But you know, people done what they had to do to try to survive in a little coal mine.
And I mean, people that are outside of this area don't get that. You know, they don't. I mean, you got to do what you got to do around here. It's rough.
Sometimes
it's rough.
Rough go.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, like now it's gotten a heck of a lot better, but just back 60 years ago, you know, my dad tells me stories about how they had to sleep on hay. They didn't have a mattress or anything like that. You didn't have air conditioner.
Corn
you had
shucks and stuff.
Yeah, you had to open up every window in the house. That was your air conditioning.
I slept in a bed that my great-great-grandpa had, a feather bed, when I was a boy. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, that was so old. It was like laying on a bed of rocks. It's just lumpy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's where kids had been.
Probably.
The feathers had got lumpy. But it was like laying in a bed of rocks. And you believe when I got married, before I got married, I'd bought this little old trailer. And it had a bed in it. When I bought off a guy, he left it first. Him and his wife split up, and he left all the furniture in it, his wife's pictures on the walls and everything.
Yeah.
And I was staying in that, you know, quite a bit and sleeping on that old bed. And I didn't pay no attention to that old bed. When me and my wife got married, the first night we went up there, she said, you can't sleep on this. I said, what do you mean? She said, this is just a box spring. It was a set of box springs with a little bitty cardboard and a little padding on it to keep the mattress, keep the box spring from tearing the mattress off there, and I was sleeping on that. I thought it felt good compared to that feather bed I had.
If it's comfortable, it's comfortable. There's this one place. It's like the smallest country in the world. I done forgot. Tuvalu, I think it's the name of it. Tuvalu. I could be totally wrong, but it's this like little island. And yeah, they're the same way. They sleep on these little mats on the floor, and they finally got mattresses, but they were more comfortable on the mats.
I always felt good just sleeping on the ground. I go to deer hunting.
I've done the same thing. Yeah, I've slept on in the woods or even like a hardwood floor like this. I love it. Just lay back and stretch out. Good. Oh, it feels incredible.
It gets your bones back in place the way you're supposed to be, really.
Yeah, and people look at me like I'm crazy. They'll be over at my house, and I'll just lay in the floor and kind of stretch out there for a few seconds because it feels good. I love it, man.
Me and my brother used to go up Bath County. We didn't have no camper and stay a week up there deer hunting. Doesn't matter if it snowed or what. I slept on the ground. I sleep on the ground like we'd stay 7 days. I'd sleep on the ground. If it snowed, I got up some mornings, my boots full of snow. Just put them on, go on deer hunt. Yeah, never did pay much attention to it.
Made you tough, though. Yeah, I mean, the human body adapts over time. There's this guy, they call him the Iceman. He will climb mountains covered in snow in just ball shorts, just because he's been doing it for so long. His body gets used to it.
I used to know a guy that would deer hunt, no shoes on, barefooted.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what the human body can adapt to over time.
This guy would sneak up. He killed a lot of animals. He was a big time poaching dude. He's dead. He wrecked a dozer and got killed. But he was a big time old poacher boy. But he'd do it barefoot and he eat everything he killed. But he'd keep the families fed over there. If somebody didn't have nothing to eat, he'd bring them a deer. But he would hunt barefooted. But he pulled one trick it wasn't good. He went and killed an eagle, 2 eagles. Wow! And brother, he got caught. They about took everything. My cousin had one of the eagles in his freezer over Papa. They about took everything in fellas had.
Oh, man.
You ain't even allowed to have an eagle feather, much less kill an eagle. He takes one of them eagles to get it mounted. And that's when he got busted.
Buddy, he kind of deserved that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
you shouldn't just kill an eagle. We got eagles up Grundy. I see them up Grundy on the river now.
Yeah.
They're pretty.
Oh, they're beautiful. I've only seen a few of them in my lifetime, but man, it's such a majestic feeling whenever you do.
I've seen them close by up at Grundy, be just in a tree just above the road. They're big.
Yeah, whenever you first see them take off, that wingspan, it's unreal. It's hard to believe something like that exists.
I cut up and joke about them over at Grundy every night on the radio. I told them, I said, you game wardens and my eagles come over here and get on top of one of my red road diamond, my big road diamond red hens. I said, I'm going to bust him. I'm just cutting up. I wasn't buzzing him. But I'm going to get on my road out red hens.
Hey, buddy, them game wardens been bad this year. But hey, speaking about dynamite, I wanted to talk about this too. Yeah, you brought me the RC color here. Oh, by the way, it has Gene Fugate, Washington Redskins tight end. We can look that up. That's how we can figure out how old this is. But you also brought me this, and I didn't even know what this was whenever you first showed it to me.
That's stuff the cowboys used right there when they used to use dynamite to blow up the bridges with.
This is the fuse.
You see it on the cartoons and fuses they light.
Yeah, man.
Instead of that electric fuse, they had that right there.
This is a real legitimate dynamite
That's
fuse.
The stuff right there. Probably made in the 50s or 60s. You believe my brothers.
That's crazy.
My brothers was a scrap ornament in a holler now. And they found this row of that old fuse, looked like 1,000-foot round row of it. It was a big old row, about big as a 5-gallon bucket. And most time when they buy it, well, Dad didn't buy it. It wasn't much more than that right there in a little old paper box. You buy at a time. And they found that, and that's been laying over there in them mountains just 2 or 3 years ago is when they found that fuse. And that been laying there since back when they hand-loaded coal.
Whoa.
And you believe that still looked that good after I took a couple of layers off the outline of it. And it been laying there in them mountains that long, in the rain and everything, and snows, and it still looked orange like that.
Well, it seems so sturdy. You know, like this seems like it would be, it'd take you a while to cut it, seems like. I mean, it feels like metal almost.
It's made
out
of tar-like stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
now the dynamite, you can't have dynamite. It's a federal fence-to-foof dynamite.
What about the fuse?
I don't think the fuses. No, it don't blow up. It's just a burning thing. It don't blow up, but the dynamite blows up.
I'm going to look this up.
That fuse, I think, burns underwater and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure that people use, that has to be a thing.
Now,
right?
that was their squirrel hunting material when their daddies had hand-load mines. If we didn't have that, we'd burn our gloves, take our socks off, and burn them in a den to try to get a squirrel out so we could catch that squirrel. And it was hard to get them out with rag smoke, but just a little bit of that smoke there, they come out.
Man. And how do y'all figure stuff like that out?
That's
through
just what
trial and
the
error?
old timers done back then. I don't know. You know, I guess some of them's probably been squirrel hunting, had a piece on them, and said, well, like this.
Yeah.
Hillbillies always had a little fuse with them.
Buddy, them old timers, they knew how to get by on very little.
Yeah.
Like the old medicines is what always kind of interested me. Like my grandma, she would, if you had a headache, she could tell you this certain type of tree to find in the woods. I think it was a willow. And you get the willow bark and you chew the bark, and that supposedly helps with headaches. It has a lot of the same ingredients that aspirin has.
And they say that you can take plankton, this old green plankton that grows up in yards. Ain't too much plankton around now, but this plankton stuff, when you get a bee stung, they say you can rub that on a bee sting and it'll take the sting away from you.
I've heard that too. That blows my mind. It'd be interesting to see how they figured stuff like that out, you know?
Some of the best stuff I ever chewed was birch bark. When you take a lot of people will take and break a little limb off a birch tree and chew on it to get the flavor out of it, but that's not the good flavor. Back when I was a boy, the older people showed me how to do it. Mm-hmm. You haul out a tree that's like 4 to 6 inches round. You cut a ring right down here and a ring right up here about 3 foot, and you put a slice down it and you break that bark away from the tree and you get that big round slab of bark. And you take an old cannon lead, that flat lead piece, and you reach inside that and rake at that cannon lid and scrape that, and that'll scrape off strings, about like getting tobacco. And that was so juicy. We'd put it like in an old light bread bag and pack it around our pockets to chew on.
Yeah.
And that stays so juicy, you wouldn't believe how the birch flavor is out of that. You do that in the spring of the year, like April, when the sap's coming up. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't believe how much sweetness would come out of that. They'll bite no twig. People will think they're getting a good birch taste, but you're not getting it until you scrape it that way.
Man, I've never heard of that one right there. That's a new one to me.
Big bags and put it in your pocket. We'd pack it around and have something there to chew on.
That's cool, man. It's such a fascinating culture that we come from. Just a few weeks ago, I had my first ever. I only know it as hillbilly banana, but what are them things called?
It's a pawpaw.
Yeah, pawpaw.
That's where I come from, pawpaw. They named that place where pawpaw.
Is that where pawpaw?
So many pawpaws.
That's how that place gets its name, really?
That's what I would think. No, I really thought it was just on account of back when I told you the stories before about my grandpa coming with Daniel Boone up in this country.
Yeah.
And when they was about the only people here in the mountains, and when there other people would come from Tennessee up here to visit, they'd say, we're going to Pawpaw's. So I figured they got the pawpaw from that, or either he got the pawpaw from the bush. One or the other.
How's that plane that you got coming along?
Well, I was just telling this bunch last night, everybody was watching for the Star of Bethlehem to be shining.
Yeah.
I posted on there, when y'all see my plane, don't be turning that in or showing that on there, because I ain't got no plane license.
Have you finished it up now?
I got a few little things I'm going to do to it, but it's sitting there in the yard with an old big 12-foot tall blow-up dog on top of it like he's riding it.
That's cool, man. That's really. Can people see your house from the road?
Yeah. I got that old big dog standing there on top of that plane like he's taking him a ride.
Buddy, I'd say that you're like, there's always a few houses that people will drive to see Christmas decorations, and you're probably up on that list.
I was going to light my banjo up, and I couldn't get no lights. They bought all the lights out.
Buddy,
couldn't find a light nowhere.
Yeah, I went to Walmart over the weekend, and it was the same thing for me, man. We needed a few, and I couldn't find any.
I got this old guitar on the side of the hill. I light it up. It's about 40 foot long or something, and I got an old big dummy made like it's me, 16 foot tall.
That's
and
wild.
Then I had that dog on top of the plane. I wanted to light my banjo up and couldn't get no lights. Made that banjo chicken a lot. You see that on Facebook?
That was good too, man. How long did it take to make that? That's huge.
Took a little while.
Yeah, I mean,
I built
it's
a lot
huge.
onto it too. The lot too. It's pretty good size. Well, I made the round part of the banjo out of a trampoline. That trampoline's
that makes sense.
How big
cool.
around is a trampoline? It's a pretty good size banjo.
Huh? What'd you use for the strings? Just rope?
I used a cable, some
Okay.
cables, and I used belt line down the neck for the I used everything that rain wouldn't hurt, like stainless steel for the frets and
That's smart.
stainless steel mirrors off of a Ford truck for the keys. It looked just like a guitar key or a banjo key.
Yeah.
And
It
I
looked
used-
good, man.
I used a lot of hubcaps off an old Ford. Those little round ones made it look like this peg right here. Make it look like where your peg comes out. It looked real after I got done.
What does your wife say whenever you have
She says
ideas
I'm
like
crazy.
this?
She says I'm crazy. She'll say I'm
She
crazy.
never tries to
She's
stop
gonna
you
say
or
I'm crazy
anything?
when she sees her Christmas tree on set.
It
She'll
looks-
want to whoop me Thursday.
But she never tries to stop you or say no or nothing.
She says no, but when a woman says no, that's when to go.
Yep. Before she can say no again. Buddy, that's
When a woman says no, that's when to say go.
hey,
Go.
you're gonna have a hillbilly museum here in a few years, man. You will literally have a travel
I just made that
destination.
banjo thinking of my dad. I made the old guitar on the side of the hill thinking of Dad. Dad liked Gips and stuff, and I thought I'd make a big chicken lot. I know that he would have liked that if he could have got to see a chicken. I always built chicken houses for him when I was little. I can't carpenter, but I built a lot of chicken houses when I was little. He kept a lot of game chickens. And I was just thinking of him, and I had no trampoline for a long time. And it had been my cousin had made it into a dog lot, but I thought about that banjo thing for a pretty good while, but I finally got time and I done it this summer. And just thinking what Daddy would have liked a chicken house banjo, so I made a chicken house banjo.
So that's another thing that I love about how it used to be back in the day. The family aspect around here, how everybody took care of everybody, the families were real close. Nowadays, man, you don't get stuff like that.
Yeah. Dad used to get me to build them old chicken houses. I wasn't much of a carpenter, but I built a lot of chicken houses. Been building chicken houses since I've been 6 or 7 year old, I guess.
Buddy, they look good, man. And I'm telling you, that banjo, if anybody hasn't seen it, go check it out. And the plane, too. That's crazy how you have an actual airplane. Like, does it start up and
I
stuff?
think that man up Van Sant Lumber up there, Steve Stevens.
Does it like actually start up and stuff? Like,
No,
does
I'm
it,
going to put it on, like I was telling you before, I'm going to put it on a frame. Don't have it on four-wheel drive frame. Probably this spring I'll start on that. I didn't have time for it this winter.
what kind of frame you going to get? You're
I'm
going
going
to
to find
have
me
a
a
big frame.
Jeep or something old model that won't have a lot of electric stuff on it and computers and stuff. I'm going to try to find me something real old, just a frame and a seat, a steering wheel sticking up, and I'm going to cut the whole bottom out of that plane and set it down on it.
How you going to sit it down on it?
I'll raise it up and pull the frame under it and then ease him down on it once I get the bottom cut out. Bolt it all down then. Bolt it to it.
That's going to be crazy.
I'll come over and take you for a ride back
Buddy,
on one of
I
the
will
mountains
be-
when we get that baby going.
Let me know when you do it. I will be happy. That will be awesome. I've never been in a plane before, much less. What are you going to? Because it's not going to be like an airplane after this. Or do you have something that you're going to call it?
I don't know what to call it once I do that.
People name their airplanes.
I'll have to name that in something like.
Yeah, you have to get it a good name. We'll think of it. But that's wild though. Whenever I get home today, I'm going to try to cut off a little piece of this. I'm going to light it. Just see what happens. That's my plan.
All it does is smoke a little. Don't do it in the house. Do it outside.
Oh, no, I didn't plan on it. Buddy, my animals go crazy. Probably kill them too. But buddy, I see you got your guitar over there.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to hear some tunes.
We'll do something other.
Oh, I need to shut the door over there. We'll edit this. Maybe.
Well, you want to hear something wild or something smooth or something
Let's get wild for Christmas.
wild? All right. If you want to get wild, we'll get wild.
Let's get wild. Let's have a
Since
good
we've
time.
been talking about
So-
my onions, I brought me a new outfit here too. Let's change outfits.
Is that real?
How the tail is, I don't know about the hat part. I think it's fake. I remember one time my cousin wanted him a coonskin hat, and my uncle decides to make him one out of one of the coons we caught. And he dried that old hide out, but he didn't get it good and dry. And he just sews that coonskin part right here over top of he took a bill off of a cap and sewed this hide down over that cap around it so he'd have the cap for a liner. But he didn't get that coon hide dry. And man, that little old boy's walking around, green flies are blowing around his head trying to get to that. Never seen nothing like that in my life.
There is something that's cool about a coon hat. I don't know what it is about it, man, but them things, they look really warm. Is it the same way on the inside? What's the inside look
This
like?
is an old store-bought one.
Okay, so yeah, they
It's not
they
the
do
real
a good
thing.
job.
Yes, here ain't the tail is, but
What's the real thing like? What's the inside texture like?
it's just
Like, is it hard? Is it rough?
Oh, no, real one is. It's kind of, no, they tan them down. They make them soft.
Okay.
They can make them, you can make them soft or you can leave them kind of hard. Like, they make them where they're as soft as a cloth, you know.
Man, them things are cool.
Since we talked about onions and stuff, you know, I mostly just sing G, C, and D, something simple, but.
Yeah. Do you know what type of Indian you have in you? The bloodline?
I'm not exactly which Indian's in me, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'd love to do one of those ancestry things, man.
Which ones was over in the head of Papa? I used to find those arrowheads when I was a kid under cliffs and stuff.
Did you hear about that one place there? I think it was in Tazewell, where they found the big Indian burial site. Yeah, I think that was what's that fort there?
Over at Fort Whitney, whatever they call it, Fort.
Yeah, there's one over there where they used to have the lawnmower races. Yeah, that's another thing too that I've never heard of before I moved around here was the lawnmower races.
Yeah. And my grandpa run around with Ricky Skaggs. His grandpa was Henry Skaggs. His people had lived there in Tazewell. They moved there. See, my grandpa and him ended up in Pawpaw, and Daniel Boone and Henry Skaggs and them running around, and then some of them Skaggs has got graves there in Tazewell right now.
I didn't know that, man.
Skaggs. Sure is. We'll do something about the onions.
Oh, let's do it.
Something there about when Daniel Boone trades an onion a guitar. This is what you get. You know, I'm always usually just seeing D, but I woke up one morning. I don't learn how to pick. I didn't learn how to pick this song. It just come along, you know. I can't pick a lick, but
so you never had like guitar lessons?
I can't
just
learn
learned
how to do no lead picking at all. But I just woke up one morning and done this song and done the lead picking right with it. I don't know how to. Her grandpa came to Tennessee, hidden these mountains. They say was a horse thief. Her mom went to church. And rattlesnakes in a feather bed, they made the best girls ever made. It's real. Hell, hillbilly love. My grandpa came from Kentucky, moonshine man, most his life in the can. Just before he died, he gave me the recipe. Make hillbilly girls move right with the beat. It's real. Hell, hillbilly love. Late 25, hillbilly love. She ain't afraid, help trim the hogs. Gamecock fighter, powder puff of the year. She likes a good hound, good wild meat. Sit the table, son, she just can't be beat. It's real. Hell, hillbilly love. Call 40.
Hey, I like that, man. But that's that little breakdown right there. That's some good stuff, man.
A little bit different, but
I
sometimes
like it,
might
man.
write something just C, D, G, and D, and then sometimes something crazy like that just comes out.
When you record, like, have you recorded that?
Yeah, that's on one of my CDs. I don't remember which one it's on now. I don't keep up with
Man,
that.
if you done that kind of like old school electric slide sound with that, boy, that'd sound good. Yeah.
Just get crazy sometimes.
It's good to get crazy. No, we need to get crazy every once in a while. You need to let go. Everybody needs to. That's probably what's got everybody so worked up.
Merry Christmas to all them coon hunters and these 30-inch cold dudes. People don't know what it is to be in 30 inches and below 30 inches. Most people never did see 30 and below 30. There's always 35, 45, 50 inches.
Yeah.
These 30-inch dudes, they lived a different life, brother.
But it was a tough living, and some guys out there are still doing it too. So big shout out to you.
To all my old buddies I worked in the coal mines with. I wrote this old tune up about down in Johns Creek in that 30-inch coal mines. And I had some buddies that had some dogs. They went coon hunting, and they'd go to these bars and leave the dogs in the truck smothered a dog to death that was worth a fortune.
Oh, man.
While they was in there dancing around with them women.
Yeah.
Smothered a big hound to death, so I wrote this song called Old Blue. Crawling on my knees, 30-inch cold, I'd have done anything. I loved her so, with a falling rock and the kids on my mind. I couldn't wait for quit time to get to go outside. One day at work and the kids at school, Mother went to see my little sweet Sue with a no drug head, me breaking my back. I don't think that I'll ever forgive her for that. Well, a dog is a man's best friend, and me and Old Blue's going to town again. Wind up at some honky-tonk all night long, and while I'm dancing with some sweet thing, I feel so ashamed. Now I know that I really done Old Blue wrong. My mother-in-law said it's doing Sue wrong. She already heard Old Blue sang a song with a big coon treat just in his dreams, 'cause he stays in a 30-inch box all night long. Yeah, dog is a man's best friend, and me and Old Blue's going to town again. Wind up at some honky-tonk all night long, and while I'm dancing with some sweet thing, I feel so ashamed. Now I know that I really done Old Blue wrong. Yeah, while I'm dancing with some sweet thing, I feel so ashamed. Now I know I really done Old Blue wrong. I done him wrong. Speak Green Blue.
Yeah, man. Buddy, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you're actually country. If you have never met anybody with a dog named Old Blue.
Old Blue, it ain't good if you ain't got Old Blue.
Yeah, buddy. My uncle, he had a dog we named Old Blue, a little sheep dog. Buddy, one of the greatest dogs in the world.
Had a lot of Old Blues around where we was at.
Yeah, we called him Old Blue because he had one brown eye and one solid blue eye. Pretty dog, man.
Daddy kept a lot of blue ticks, but when the first dog I can remember us having when I was probably 6 or 8 years old, there was a picture of him. I wanted to find it. It was an old black and tan hound. He was back when I was a boy, you hardly ever see like a registered dog around. He was just an old mountain black and tan dog. He wasn't registered, but they was good hounds. And Daddy called him Old Rough. Must have been because times was so rough back then.
Yeah.
But that was his name, Old Rough. And he was probably from the old blood of dogs, probably some of the first ones that ever come in these mountains. He was the old type dog. Mm-hmm. They didn't have these big fancy registered dogs. Now these boys got these dogs now, like my son-in-law. The hound ain't like a hound used to be. The humans has changed the hounds around. They're not the same as these.
How are they not the
sit
same?
And look at their phone, and it shows a little dog on their phone while they're hunting. We always just enjoyed the mountains, looking at the timber and watching the dogs. If you get to see them run a coon. Now when their dog barks, if he's 20 foot away, they look at the phone. He's running the coon. And then that phone shows a mark, a line where he's going to, follows and knows every road on the mountains.
Whoa! How do they know? Like, do they microchip the dog? Is that how?
No, it's got a collar, a tracking collar.
Okay,
and this tracking
that
collar's
makes
got all
sense.
this stuff. It hooks up and it comes back to her phone. I don't know much about them because I still hunt the old way, but they can track a dog anywhere it goes. It shows the little dog where he's going. Shows the little dog if he's treeing. He'll say, "Yeah, he's treeing," and all that stuff there. And a dog now, when you get a dog now, most of the dogs I get now try to learn to hunt. Most dogs you get now, they hunt so wide off, you can't keep up with them if you hunt the way we used to hunt on foot and not have that track system. Their dogs goes completely out of here and gets out of a coon. You don't even know where they're at. Back when we hunted, you couldn't use a dog like that without the tracking system. You had to have the tracking system to hunt today's dog.
Yeah.
Most of today's dogs I see, you have to have a tracking system to hunt.
You see, to me, that's just cheating at that point. Like, I was fishing one time, and I I was on somebody's boat, and they showed me this thing that they had on the boat. It was this like radar thing.
Showed where the fish.
Yeah, it showed you where the fish are.
That's
That don't make any. That's not the fun. That takes all the fun out of it. That's cheating.
I look for them to make something yet to put on the dog to shoot the coon out with. Some kind of laser.
Yeah,
when he's looking up a tree, shoot the coon, bring it back to you.
It don't make much sense. I get that, technology helps, but they take a lot of fun out of it whenever they do stuff like that.
First, finding your dog, it's number one, because you can find your dog. A lot of times we lost dogs because we didn't have no tracking way, and you could cross a lot of mountains and couldn't find him. He'd be somewhere where you couldn't find him, and now they can find their dog, though.
I'd say people lost plenty of dogs like that back in the day.
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense. That is a lot safer.
They can find their dog, but they can even tell if he's treed or not and everything. They don't even have to get to hear him treed. They can just say he's treed. They know he's treed, and that son-in-law might be hunting for him. He'll say he's treed, and I'm sitting there wondering, where the heck's he at?
Yeah.
But you walk and walk and walk, he knows which direction to go with that, too. And next thing you know, you hear him treed.
I guess something like that can make sense, but the fishing thing, now that for sure is cheating. But with technology nowadays, who knows what they're going to do next? Imagine. See, I remember whenever these iPhones first came out, buddy. This is my second iPhone in my entire lifetime.
I don't have a phone. I can't work one.
Buddy, I don't blame you. This thing, I'm still figuring out stuff. My wife is helping me a lot.
I've been going to get one. I got to learn how to work one. I've been going to get one so I can do some videos. The only time I can put a video on Facebook is when my boy's around. He cameras me.
Yeah, and well, stuff like that is fun too. It's all about how you use it. It's just like anything else. It can be abused or it can be used to your actual use. But technology is just getting crazy nowadays. Have you heard of that virtual reality stuff?
Don't even know what you're talking about.
Buddy, they got this thing where you put it on it's like goggles. You put it on your eyes, and you have these controllers that are in your hand. And it puts you in a totally different world. You're still like in the real world, of course, but from what you're seeing, like your surroundings is totally different. And you play video games on this thing.
I've had that since I was born.
It's called imagination. But the thing is, like, it just like if you stay so long in that, or you play it for quite a while, it almost starts to feel real. Yeah. It's one of the craziest things I've ever done in my entire life.
It's a wild world.
But to my nephews, though, to them, it is so normal because they're growing up in it. That's what they're getting from a young age.
It's a wild world right now. The coon hunters today and the coon hunters used to be, they eat the coon, they saved the hide and made them a coat or a hat and saved enough hide so they'll make a coat. Yeah. They even use the coon pecker to make a toothpick.
I've heard about that.
The old timers did. You'd see them run around with one in their pocket all the time.
I heard about
curled
that.
Bone, and it was a toothpick.
Yeah.
And they used everything. In this day and time, they don't.
Nothing went to waste, but they got the bone marrow.
I know coon ain't too bad to eat, and I eat a little coon before.
What does it taste like?
It tastes like coon.
So it has its own taste?
It's got a different taste. It's pretty good.
If you had to put it towards something, is similar to anything?
I just can't put it with nothing else. No. It's just got its own kind of a thing. It's like groundhog. It's got its own kind, and coon's got its own kind. Yeah. But I hadn't eaten no coon much. When I was a boy, I probably ate quite a few messes before I got old enough to know what I was eating. But
you ever tried squirrel brain?
I was telling you the other time I was here, my uncles eat them things wide open.
Yeah.
Oh, they bust them skulls with a little big heavy spoon and pluck that out and eat it.
And totally normal.
I've never eaten possum. They used to eat a lot of possums, people did. But
ain't there a big possum festival somewhere over there?
Kind of possum festival somewhere. Yeah. There's a groundhog festival somewhere too.
That might be one thing.
They have a groundhog festival.
Yeah, that might be what I'm thinking about. And people just had to eat. They didn't have no Taco Bell back then or anything like that. But people like that also respected the land even more too. Like nowadays, we were talking before we hopped on air. There are people that will hunt for fun.
And the mountains are completely different now. When I was a boy, you had groundhog, squirrels, very few coons because they'd done cleaned the coons out. The old timers, But the groundhogs always stayed thick, and now they ain't no groundhogs much. Yeah. But we didn't have no deer, we didn't have no turkey, we didn't have no elk, we didn't have no coyotes, we didn't have no bear. The bears had done been killed out. My grandpa's had killed them out, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have nothing over where I lived, just squirrels and groundhogs. And a coon there'd be a coon every 15 miles, 20, I bet. sometimes. Yeah. If you could find a coon track when I was a boy, you go to the store, one of the old timers be sitting on the porch, buy you a pop if you tell him where that track's at.
Wow.
Just to find out where a coon track's at, and then everybody you're telling everybody to get that pop you can, so everybody's cooning in that same spot track.
Smart guy. Well, that's one problem with hunting around here nowadays is, everybody hunts in the same spots. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, whenever you see somebody on Facebook or whatever that's got them a big deer or something, they got it somewhere away from here. Yeah. Because, unless you got a good spot.
Now they kill them deer. My boy killed 2 big 8-points there behind my house. And I showed him on Facebook and once he killed
I seen that.
He killed them both in the same spot. And he won't hunt unless he hunts legal. He ain't like me. I used to be a poacher. I don't even hunt now, but when I hunted deer, I poached back in the day. But he's legal. You mention poaching to him, he's mad. He kills them 2 big 8-points. He got them legal. And he called me at 7:30 one morning. It real cold. I was ready to get out. I don't want to take no kind of a flu or nothing. Afraid of just COVID. If you just get flu, maybe. I don't even want to even think about getting nothing. I didn't want to get out. And here it was 7:30 in the morning. In the teens, I had to take a 4 and go back there and meet him, help him load that first deer up. Brought it out. It goes about 3 or 4 days. 7:30 in the morning, the phone rings again. I didn't think it'd be him again. He sat back there at the stand, said, I got another, and come to the same spot, right in the same spot. He go load the other one up.
Good for him, man. Hey, they look like some beauties too, man. Big old things.
Good eating, fat. They was big and fat. Yeah. The deer in the area does real good because we don't have that harder winters, I believe, and we got plenty of oaks. The deer does real good here in these mountains.
Oh yeah, I mean, but there's some great soil around here.
Good territory for deer, and bear is real thick.
Yeah, I would never hunt bear. I don't know. I just wouldn't think
hope I don't gas off. I ate bear yesterday. You might smell bear scent.
What does it taste like? It might be bad. What does it taste like?
I don't really.
See, I looked at pictures because one of my buddies killed one, and I was just thinking like, why would somebody want to eat one? I looked at pictures of the meat, and it didn't look very good.
It's so dark red. Yeah. I'm not much for it. I told you I'd eat it a long time ago, and yesterday I got to try it again. My wife had made some, put it in a crock pot overnight. And we had taters and stuff and bear meat, and I didn't care. Real dark red, but it was tender. She ate. Some people say it's tough. It was just as tender as it could be, but.
Man, it's just how it's made. But
it didn't really taste bad. Just the thought of that, I just don't like. After I sit and look at this bear, my neighbor killed this bear and gave me a mess of meat. It just like looking at a big shaggy dog laying there, and that meat's so dark.
It didn't. The meat did not look good. Did you see that one? The world record. It was like
I thought I seen something.
That one 14-year-old girl shot and killed.
Big, and I see the big one. I guess it's the one.
Yeah, the rack was. It didn't even look real. I mean, I forget how many points it was, but it was like maybe in the 40s or something. I don't know. It was something crazy. Man, I'm all for hunting and stuff, but if I seen something like that whenever I was out in the woods, I would just let it walk on by. I couldn't do it. It would just I would feel bad.
They
for
taste
shooting that.
They taste good with A1 sauce.
Oh no,
eat a litter boot with A1.
Oh, I've had plenty, and I've done my fair share of hunting. But like, if I just seen something that looked like that had a 46 point or whatever it was, just something it's almost like it's too beautiful to kill.
I'd want to catch him, wouldn't you, and keep him.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't want to kill it, but yeah, I've done my fair share of hunting, and buddy, deer meat, it's unlike anything else I've ever had. I've heard that elk is really good. I've never tried elk.
I see somewhere down here in Kentucky on the Facebook the other day, somebody was showing a bunch of elk across the road down here somewhere.
I seen that. I don't know where that was at.
By here, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's a bunch of cars parked beside the road taking pictures, so it must be a normal thing somewhere.
We got a lot of them at Poplar Gap now. There's quite a few up there.
Yeah.
I see them over around the Breaks area over on Conaway on the other side.
Yeah, they released a bunch of them in these woods a few years ago.
I think they had them added up to like they had close to 400 a year or so ago over there, and they should be a lot thicker now because that's been a couple of years ago that I see them talking about, hear them talking about.
They're going to let some wolves out soon if the numbers get too high.
They say we got mountain lions already turned loose They say they turn the mountain lions loose. My cousin got one on camera.
Hey, one of my buddies that works downstairs, he goes walking, and he bought a trail cam because he said that he seen a big old cat the other day. He wanted to try to get a picture of it.
My cousin's got one on camera. It's a big-looking cat.
Them things are around here. But I know that people don't see them, so some people don't believe that they are. But that's the thing about those things. They see you before you see them.
That hunting cameras are showing them now. They're showing them.
Oh, yeah. And there was one here in And Betsy Lane knows a bobcat, which is pretty ironic. That's their mascot.
Bobcats was thick when I was young. They ain't thick now. They're few.
They're
when I
little.
was a kid, it wasn't nothing to walk out on the porch where Dad lived. In the nighttime, I done it a lot of times just to get to watch them. You'd go out and sit on the porch with the porch light on. The bobcat would just run through the yard. Every little bit, one might run by. They was that thick back then.
Yeah, but I seen my dad. He had somebody that took a picture of a panther over there near West Virginia. Well, it wasn't a panther. Well, it was a panther, but it wasn't a full picture. He only got like the back of him. It was like the back legs and his tail. And buddy, that tail was the size of your guitar. I mean, it was that long, and it was as wide as this Clorox thing. I mean, it's ginormous.
I'd go in these old hills and just lay down anywhere and go to sleep or anything. I won't do that now. There's too many wild things in these mountains now.
That's the thing, man. I mean, the people that grew up in these hills, especially like during the Great Depression and times like that, it's a different breed of human beings. The ones that, would just fall asleep there in the woods with a panther around them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's crazy to think that stuff like that exists around here.
That's like when Daniel Boone and them first come here, and my grandpa and them, they had to have hound dogs. A lot of people don't like hound dogs. If it wasn't for hound dogs, none of us would be here. When they come here to these mountains, if they didn't have hound dogs, we wouldn't be here because they lay down and go to sleep in the woods before they got them in cabins built and stuff. Mm-hmm. The dog would wake them up if anything was around and warn them. If you didn't get the warning, you'd be dead.
That's smart.
See, the hound give the warning. That's the reason we're here, the hound dog. A lot of people don't like people with hound dogs, but hound dogs are the reason we're here.
Hey, but them things are allowed.
They had to have dogs when they come here. It's the only way to survive. The dog meant more than the gun. You could have all the guns you wanted laying around you, and you're laying there asleep. Something's going to eat you before you can reach and get the gun. But when the dog woke you up, you could get the gun. So you got to have the dog.
It blows my mind that people will still, like, I was in a vet's office a few months ago, and some woman came in there. I guess she was bringing the dog in for her kid or whatever. She's like, I don't get why people like these things so much. To me, a dog is just a dog.
Yeah.
Saying this in a vet's office with all of these animal lovers around. I'm like, woman, you better shut up. You're going to get clobbered. But people still have that mindset.
Yeah,
man, whenever I go home and my dog jumps in my lap and starts licking my face, the feeling of love that you get from an animal like that, you can't match it. I trust dogs more than I do most people.
Yeah, dogs is. I got a little old dog that Green Scott gave me. Green Scott, Merry Christmas, Green. He gave me a little dog. I called him Greenie. The little one I got sitting there playing, petting on, I gave him off a green little brown dog. You believe that little thing tries to eat my wife up. It won't let her out of the house without trying to bite her. And my boys the same way. He tries to eat my boys up. But you believe all the strangers comes along can stand there in my driveway and talk to me all they want to? That dog won't growl at nobody.
Huh.
And right now, if Sandy's at home going out on the back porch to get a piece of wood to put in the stove, that dog will jump with all teeth for snapping. Yeah. Put her back in the house.
But they got personality, you know, and I like to think that they have a conscience or a soul too, because there's just way too much emotion that comes out of, especially dogs.
Dogs can read your mind and everything.
Yeah,
dogs
man.
Is something.
We like to think that they're stupid, dumb animals, and they may be smarter than us.
This old hound was so smart one time. I always wondered about it. It always kept me wondering if I would get up to go out of the house to feed that hound, I could look through my back window at the house and see the doghouse she was at. If I was going to get up and go out and feed her, she would stick her head out the doghouse. She'd know I was coming to feed her. But if I was just going to be going out to go somewhere or something, I'd watch that dog. He'd never stick his head out. He'd know when I was going to feed it somewhere. I always wondered, how did that dog know when I was going to come out and feed it?
Wow.
Like it read your mind.
Yeah. See, or maybe like they also like just have a time schedule, you know, because my dogs have done that with me. But like it's almost like they know what time I get home. Like they don't have a watch, but they just know somehow that this is the time of day that I get home. So that's when they know. Like they're on the front porch or something. It's weird.
Some of these guys on Facebook talking about people having their hounds, keeping them outside. Now, you can't keep a big flock of hounds in your house, big dogs. Not when it gets cold. They think that when it gets cold, you should treat them like a human, bring them in. But a dog can take real cold weather. Yeah. Well, but a dog needs a good doghouse.
Yeah.
You know, no metal barrel. I don't like that because the metal barrel gets so cold. A hound don't need to be in a metal barrel. But a dog that's got a good doghouse And if it gets like 0 and wind chills is bad, I always hang a rug over the door where he can go under it and the rug will flap down and keep the air blocked off him. But if he's got a good wood doghouse and good straw in it, he's comfortable at 0. It's perfect for him. It's just good weather for him. He'll sleep good. Yeah. But I can see, some people don't take care of them right.
Well, some dogs will thrive in the snow. I don't know what type of dogs it is that they use for sleds, like the sleigh dogs or whatever, but my aunt went to, I think it was Alaska. She went somewhere where they had to ride dog sleds to get to this one place. And the dogs there, yet they sleep in the snow. Like they'll call for the dogs and you'll see this mountain of snow come up and that's the dog. But they thrive in that type of weather.
I had a husky dog one time, wouldn't go in his doghouse. He wanted to sleep in the snow.
Yeah, that's the.
You couldn't make him go in that doghouse.
That might be the same type of dogs that they use because for some reason that type of dog loves wintertime.
Some of them's mixed with wolf and stuff. But you'd imagine now if everybody took their hounds and get them babyfied to where they had to be in the warm all the time, when you going to go out on a cold night hunting, how's that dog going to hunt?
No.
He's got to be able to take the weather.
No. Well, dogs need to spend time outside. With people keeping their animals locked up 24/7,
but an old hound
ain't supposed to do that.
Needs a good box, though, to get in when it does get bad.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in keeping the hound dog in the house. How are you going to keep, like a bear hunter's got 20 dogs? If they start doing that, how are you going to keep your horses and cows in the house?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
The animals, they can take it, but they do need some shelter. I always thought the best way to build a doghouse would be to build a cinder block doghouse back in the mountain. Dig a hole back in the mountain, make a cinder block. That's what I've been going to do and I ain't had time. That way, it's cool in the summer and it's warm in the winter. But get that built back in there.
That'd be good.
Just leave the hole kind of sticking out of the mountain for him to go in, and he'll be warm, real warm in the winter and real cool in the summer. Well, I thought about doing that. I ain't never done it.
Yeah, it's hard to find time, man.
It's a seller for a dog. Call it a seller for a dog. Sell for a dog.
I like it. Hey, I've seen people that built houses like that back in the woods. Yeah. Well, back in the hillside. And if it works, man.
I've seen people moving just like a cave. It was an old mine hole. I've seen people move in there.
Yeah, I think that I know somebody that still lives in something like that.
I hunted in a area and I seen where this boy and girl had left home and had been staying under a mine cliff there.
Wow. Hey, there's some tough people out there, man. But Hoot, we've been going for a while, buddy. We're going to have to wrap this up soon.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
You know any Christmas songs or anything?
Merry Christmas. And all the boys in service, Merry Christmas to him. I was talking to my buddy Keaton. He's my cousin. He's in service. I was telling him all these old Daniel Boone tales. He had never heard them. I was telling them to him.
Uh-huh.
I like seeing Christmas for the kids, but it seems like the grown-ups have spoiled it.
Yeah,
they argue over what they're getting. And
well, it's become more of material items than it has the love for your family members that you're supposed to be spending.
I love seeing Christmas, but after I lost my dad, it bothered me over Christmas because he'd always have a big smile on his face if you just brought a sack of dog food.
Yeah.
When he seen me come with that dog food, and he's just glad to get together and have a good dinner with everybody.
Yeah, and that's how you should be.
But some people have a sad Christmas. They lose people on Christmas Day, and I've had some friends that committed suicide right around Christmas.
Yeah.
But I bought myself an old guitar for $25 at an auction, and a couple years ago on Christmas morning I wrote this song. It's a sad song, but I want Christmas. It's just it's about
Well, like you said,
the Lord and the kids and stuff, and having a good meal and getting together, and it's not about fighting over stuff.
I've lost a bunch of family members and some around this time too, and you do tend to think about them, but at least sometimes it makes you think of happy memories and stuff like that too.
I've had a few that done suicide, and I just can't understand it. Do anything before you do suicide. Try anything.
Yeah,
anything. You got too much you can do. Some people nobody don't visit. Some people just to themselves.
And that's the thing, especially nowadays, I know people are scared to visit and stuff, but that's why you call people up. That's why you shoot them a little text message or a Facebook message.
Alone,
say, hey, how you doing?
When they're alone, they don't have no family around, and they're having sad times. There's a lot of people have sad times because they've lost people right on Christmas Day and stuff. So I wrote this song, Missing. It's about a man missing his woman. It's suicide, but you don't want to think of no suicide because that's not a way to go. I wrote this tune you're thinking missing my dad one morning. I was just missing him, and it was on Christmas morning. And I wrote this little tune here. If you ever want to hear this song the old man wrote me, have someone to hold you just might cry about his long lost love, been gone a long, long time. Holidays make him cry. Don't want no Christmas, don't want no present, don't want nothing, his baby's gone. Don't want no New Year, don't want no Valentine, his heart is gone. Drinking, he tried everything. There's nothing that'll take her off his mind. He stayed on a graveyard, down on his knees, praying, crying day and night. Don't want no Christmas, don't want no present, don't want nothing, no, his baby's gone. Don't want no New Year, don't want no Valentine, his heart is gone. He spends his last Christmas Eve drinking a little heavy, a bottle and a pistol in his hand. They find him lying out there beside her. The holiday could not stand. Don't want no Christmas, don't want no present, don't want nothing, no, his baby's gone. Don't want no New Year, don't want no Valentine, his heart, it's gone. Don't want no Christmas, don't want no present, don't want nothing, his baby's gone. If you ever want to hear this song, the old man, he wrote me.
Buddy, that's a pretty song right there.
People right around Christmas time, they have a rough time when they lose them right on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I know.
Some people, you know, they ain't having as much fun as others, but you got to go ahead and try to live it and be good and have fun with your kids, and don't never think of suicide and stuff. But
Well, see, I have some German members in my family, and they do this really cool thing whenever they lose somebody. They don't have a funeral. They have what they call a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I think is such a cool way to look at death. Yeah. Because it's, of course it's sad. It's impossible not to be sad about it.
I never committed suicide close to Christmas time. I know it's rough on the kids and stuff.
Yeah. And it's... But I think that sad songs are important because people can relate to it. Whenever whenever you're in your feelings, in your own head and thinking about all these bad things, sometimes it's rough because you feel like you're the only one going through that. But whenever you hear a song like it is the one that you wrote or something like that, it makes you realize that, yeah, you're not the only one. And
people going through it.
And it gives you that sense of community. And it doesn't exactly make it better, but at least you realize that you're not the only one.
And if anybody knows anybody stood herself on Christmas time, try to be with them.
And nowadays it's super easy. I mean, give them a phone call. I got some family that FaceTimes me now. That's wild. People you can see their face on the phone.
My kids do that, the grandkids.
But I know I'm young, but this is my second smartphone in my entire life. The last phone that I bought was like in 2015. Yeah, I don't like stuff like this.
I'm wanting to get a phone where I can learn how to do something and do my videos, like in the mountains, maybe take a video, but
people like them.
How to work a phone.
Buddy, I'm still figuring out. And the thing is, buddy, these are going to be looked at as flip phones in about 20 years. Who knows? They're going to have a chip on your tongue or something like that in a few years.
Somebody help me do some videos. I got some new songs wrote. I want to make me some hunting videos and stuff with my music and do some wild hillbilly videos.
Well, let me know, man, and we might be able to work something out.
I need somebody to do the video work for me. I've got some wild songs and some wild thoughts about how to do the video, but I don't know how to work nothing,
Hey, buddy, I've got all types of time to kill. So let me know, man, and we might work something out.
I'll do something.
But that really is a pretty song. And ain't that off of your CD too?
It's on the CD.
Yeah, I thought I remembered that tune off of there.
I just come up with that morning. My brother Eddie, that was in the hospital down here at Pikeville a few days ago with COVID, he was sitting there and I was trying to write that old song on the phone, and I said, don't want no Christmas and don't want no New Year's, and he said, and don't want no Valentine. He added that in there, and that helped me out on the song.
Yeah,
he said,
I
don't
like
want no Valentine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it is sad through those months right there.
Yeah.
When you've lost somebody around that time of year, it's sad months.
But that's why I try to think of all the good times too. See, I lost.
Think of all the good times you had with your parents and stuff.
I lost my mother a few years ago, and buddy, Christmas it gets me too. But there's one memory that I always like to hold on to. We were living in Georgia, and it's right when we moved down there. My mom, she was working factory jobs, didn't have a lot. We weren't making a lot of money, and the only thing that she could afford at the time was this one guitar video game. It was called Guitar Hero. And that was the only gift that I got the entire Christmas. There's some kids that get millions. I only had that one. And I remember being so happy about that gift. And I also knew how hard that my mom worked in order to get me that gift. And that made it a lot more special. And man, I remember that it was such a good memory. And I like to think about stuff like that around times like this instead of the fact that she's not around or anything like that.
Now, it bothered me a lot on Christmas, around Christmas time. My dad being gone, but now I know he wants you to be happy.
Yeah.
You get the kids, have good dinners. He don't want you to be sad. He wants you to be happy. I made that little sad song, but he'd want you to get together and have a good time, not be sad. I can remember you was talking about Christmas gifts one time when I was a little boy. I got this little rat about that long. It was just a little rubber rat for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And my Uncle Dave, he brought that back up a couple years ago. He said, I can remember when you got mad over just getting that little gray rat. I got this little plastic gray rat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. But I'd stayed, my most memory of Christmas, I stayed all night with my buddy that picks mandolin for me. I stayed all night before he was born with his dad and mom. They first got married. And I stayed all night with him. I think it was Christmas Eve. And there's this old man named Eli. I've told you about Eli. I've wrote songs about Eli.
Yeah.
I've wrote songs about him. He lived in an old smokehouse then. He used to sleep on the ground and everything, but he lived in a smokehouse behind my uncle that I stayed all night with him Christmas Eve. And he was my uncle told me to take he stayed in that smokehouse. He'd sleep with his feet sticking out the door. And he had no big stove in there, and it's so hot, he'd have to, leave the door open. But my uncle told me that morning, I woke up Christmas morning, he said, take them old ashes out and throw them out outside on the hillside, and it'd come with about 2 inches of snow. And that coal bucket it wasn't ashes, it was orange peelings and walnuts where they cracked walnuts that night. You know how everybody eats oranges and walnuts. That was full of orange holes. I slang him out there in that 2 inches of snow. And I was little and kind of scared of old Eli, and I'd peep out the window and watch for Eli to come out. He'd come in there and get a cup of coffee and a donut every morning there at my uncle's. It's the first thing he'd do. But he'd come out of that smokehouse and eat those orange holes. Orange holes is strong. You know how gassy they are? He eat them. And, You can mash an orange oil and hit a little spray out, and you can take a lighter. We used to do it when I was a kid, and it'll blow fire from it. You ever done that?
No.
You can take an orange oil and squeeze it, and you'll have a little mist come out of it, and you can take a lighter and light it, and it'll blow a mist.
I've never heard of that.
Flame. It'll blow a flame. It's good. That's how powerful they mist. I don't know how I used to eat him, but he was a tough dude. He was real tough. And he'd come out there to my uncle's. He always did stay with my dad. He was my dad's best friend. And he stayed there at my uncle's, taking care of him there. And he come out there that morning and come in there and got a cup of coffee. And they'd have a perker on top of that old coal stove and hit a bubbling red hot.
Yeah.
And they poured him this soup bowl, one of those Campbell bowls that big around. You put soup in with a hand, looks like a coffee cup, but this big. They poured him one of them full of coffee and rich him a glazed donut. And I never will forget what he done. He took that old glazed donut and wadded it up in his hand. It looked like about the size of a golf ball. And he stuck that down in that hot coffee with his hand and then popped that in his jaw and ate it.
Goodness gracious, man.
He was tough.
Buddy.
My dad's buried right beside him right now. Dad told us when he was dying to make sure we put him beside Eli. That was his big buddy. Eli was tough. But that night I stayed there with them. Another thing I remember about Christmas. My uncle had thrown a bucket of coal in the stove before he went to bed, and the stove was like from me to you to the couch. And I was sleeping on the couch. They went to bed. He said, "You keep an eye on this fire." But I was a little boy, didn't know nothing. He said, "You keep an eye on this fire now." He threw that big bucket of coal in that stove and went to bed. Hey, that stove turned completely orange from the bottom to the top of the pipe.
Good.
And it's a wonder how I'm sitting there and the sweat rolling off me. I ain't having no sense to shut the draft off on the stove. It's a wonder we didn't burn down. I told him that it turned completely orange from one end to the other.
God.
Hit a roaring, and he was in there in the bed asleep, didn't hear it. And I believe he thought I knew what to do, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't shut the draft off.
But hey, them things are warm though, buddy.
I'll never forget that Christmas.
Yeah, I had some buddies that had one that kept their house warm, and yeah, buddy, them things will keep you warm. Like you said, sweat will pour off you.
The sweat was pouring off me in the stove orange, and I didn't have any sense to shut the draft off. Just laying there letting her heat up.
Well, but
I was wondering if we didn't burn down that night.
I'm glad that you're still around after all the crazy stories.
But lucky to be here, man. Sleep with dynamite and everything.
But and
as a kid, we had a wild time.
And speaking about dynamite, man, thank you for the gifts. These are awesome, man. They really are. I can't wait to try this.
Good to keep them hang on the wall.
I love stuff like this. I collect all types of old antiques and stuff like that. You can learn from your history.
I believe that. Can probably 45 years, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, I looked into it here. Gene Fugit played in the. That was the early 70s.
Is that when it was?
Yep. So, yeah. And heck, that's, going on almost 50 years. But who knows how old this is right here.
Oh, there's like 60-year-old or something.
Man, that's crazy. I really am going to cut off a piece of it and light it, just see what happens. It's exciting. Man, this is, and like I said, let me know about those videos. We'll make it happen, man.
Yeah, I'd like to make some videos. Something about like old Laidback does. I watched some of his videos. Just something simple. I just want to do some simple. I got one about deer hunting that I want to do, and I got one about a coon hunting song about Pretty Speckled Pup, about a boy meeting some girls.
Yeah.
Meeting his girlfriend at a place, trading on dogs. I got a good song about that. That's real good hillbilly way, and I'd like to have it on video.
Hey, let me know, man. We'll make it happen.
We'll get together and do that.
But Hoot, buddy, thank you for everything. Hope you have a good Christmas, buddy.
Have a good time down here around this Daniel Boone Shack. I call this the Daniel Boone Shack.
Hey, wait, we got him on the sign out there, man.
Sign.
That's what we'll start calling it.
This is the Daniel Boone Shack right here.
Well, hey, boy, reporting live from the Daniel Boone Shack. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everybody here at the radio.
Yeah.
And all my fans I got on Facebook. Got a bunch of buddies on Facebook. Merry Christmas to y'all.
They're all good people. We love y'all. Merry Christmas. See you next week. Boom.